Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. We are going to be going through progression, namely your level, resources and influence. Level's fairly straightforward. For every level you gain one trait. This is like a special ability, like let's say you want to be a surgeon, or fast draw ability, or the ability to set people alight with your flamethrower. There's little distinctives that set you apart. You can gain one trait per area, and like per attribute, and per trained skill. So let's say you've got a strength of 5, which is pretty high, so you can select any of the 5 strength traits, but if you select one of them, it means you're not selecting the other 4. By default, you start the game at level 2, so you have 2 traits. Your first trait is always your racial trait, so it determines what player race you are. Are you a Kaltoran or a Legion? Your second trait can be spent on anything that you want. Level also determines your maximum resources and influence. So if you're level 3, then your maximum resources is 3, and your maximum influence is 3. Every third session, you gain 1 level, regardless of your in-game actions. Then you've got resources and influence. These have a couple of things in common. The first one is that they are only gained through in-game actions. So let's say your maximum is 5, but your current is only 2. That means that you can increase it by a further 3 through your in-game actions like missions or looting or trade goods or science or something like that. The other thing about resources and influence are that they are distributed, not spent. So let's say you have a current resources of 5, you spend 3 on a sniper rifle and 2 on your armor. Then through the game, you lose your sniper rifle and you decide you don't lose these resources, you can merely redistribute them. So let's say you put another one into your armor, so you want better armor, and this time you just spend 2 and get a shotgun. Influence is used for acquiring a spacecraft, but unlike resources, influence can be pooled. So if you are a party of 4 with 5 influence each, you get 20 influence to spend on one good spaceship. But of course you can split that up, you can spend that on a fighter and then one on a medium ship. On your reference sheet, you have 2 sections here for keeping track of your current resources and influence. Simply fill in those little hexes as you gain them. Also notice that on your influence track here, you got these little pips and dots. These represent perks and complications. So as NPCs become more invested in you and take more interest in you, that can lead to some benefits like contacts or access to equipment, but it can also lead to complications like rivals and bounties being put on you. So I've primarily done progression like this for 4 reasons. The first one is ambiguity. I actually want things to be ambiguous. Let's say you've got a really rich character with lots of money. They're not necessarily better off than the character that's more skills orientated and they're like a salvager and they maintain their own equipment, because the resources can represent different things for them. One is money and the other is personal ability to maintain. The second reason is balance, in that I don't want GMs to worry about giving too much or too little progression to their party. So if they give too much resources, everyone has a maximum, so it stops at a certain point. But if they give too little, so let's say you've got 2 resources but you've got a maximum of 5, the combats are balanced based on your current resources, so the fights will be easier, they will match you. The third reason is for different rewards. So in real life, having people like you and being invested in you is very beneficial, but often in role-playing games it's all about physical reward. So let's say you've got those settlers that are stranded and they need your help. You can ask for a physical reward, and they might give you like a resource, but you could also help them for free and not get any reward, and that will gain you influence, maybe a couple of influence, because they'll tell people about you and they'll talk about you. But influence doesn't necessarily mean you're a good guy. So let's say you're a pirate, you could be gaining influence with pirate groups and other terrorist organizations, and it's what their opinion of you that matters. The fourth reason is I want these three types of forms of progression to act like dials for the GM. You can tweak them to match the style of game that you want. So let's say you want a Star Trek style game. So you could have like high level because they're very skilled people, but you could have a high influence because you've got a big ship with lots of crew, but you would have low resources because you're running around with a phaser and no armor. Or let's say you want a game where everyone's poor, like it's a real desperate sort of horror type game. So you could have a high level, but low resources and possibly no influence. So you've got very skilled people, but they're running around with just pistols and just some durable clothing. Of course, you could have the type of real combat heavy game. So you could have a mediocre level and influence and a very high resources, because you're all like space commandos or something like that. You can tweak it to match the style of game that you want.